Thank you. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great time here at Agile to Wellness. And my name is DENIS. We will talk about self-organization today. And a few words about myself. So I'm 28 years old. I also, as Dmitry, come from Russia, but currently live and work in Berlin. So I started my Agile journey like 6 years ago, studied in Russia, then moved to Cyprus, worked there for like a year and a half. And for the last 2 years, I live and work in Berlin. I try to share my ideas from time to time in different like formats in Facebook, LinkedIn, Medium, Instagram. So you can follow me using this nick. You can, if you will post something from today, you can also mention me. That would be great. So letting the team go. It was the last question in the title, but I would suggest to start with it. Why we should even think about letting the team go? So imagine that you were sitting on the bank of the river or on the seaside, and you got the bottle which shows the place where you can find the treasure. And to get this treasure, you need to cross ocean, you need to cross jungle, maybe get over the mountains. And how many of you think that it's possible to deal with such task alone? No one. That's great. Yeah, really, to do this, you need to have a team where you have specialists which know something about what they're doing, but at the same time, they can work together. They are kind of self-organized, because if they are not self-organized and everything is defined by the captain, that at some point of the time will most probably sink because captain was choosing what we're going to eat today or something like that. And you also need to have trust with these people, because otherwise, you will not achieve the success, or if we are talking again about the pirate team, you will just get stabbed in the back when you find the treasure. And we need to kind of strictly define and be clear about vocabulary. What do we mean here by self-organizing teams? So this is a very nice schema from Mike Kohn. I think most of you know him. And it defines like 4 domains of decision-making and 4 stages of team development. And self-organizing team is the second one, where overall direction and the team in this context are still designed by the management, still decided by the management. But at the same time, team is responsible not only for executing the tasks, but also for monitoring and managing work's process. And it's not surprising that a manifesto says that the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from the self-organized teams. Self-organization is also mentioned 5 times in the Scrum Guide. It says, first of all, that Scrum teams are self-organizing and cross-functional, and also gives kind of a definition that self-organizing teams choose how best to accomplish the work rather than being directed by others outside the team. Kind of the same that we've seen on the previous slide. And there are some benefits of self-organization. First of all, it doesn't work all the time, but still it provides employees motivation. And it's kind of different from depending from role to role. If we talk about developers, when you empower developers to make technical decisions, to come up with designs, not just to implement the task that has already been pre-described, you give them a field for further professional development. You give them ability to make mistakes, learn something from them, and like become better specialists. If we talk about managers, here the motivation is different. First of all, like there are people who do micromanagement, there are people who don't do micromanagement, but I would say that most of the people, even those who do it, still hate micromanagement, because it takes a lot of your time, a lot of your effort, a lot of your focus, and you also become the single point of failure of the system. If you don't micromanage, the system stops working. So for the managers, the main motivation is, first of all, ability to focus on the really most important stuff, to really stop being the single point of failure, and in the end, also just being able to go on vacation without feeling that constant pressure that someone is emailing you, someone is calling you, and the company cannot live without you. As a result, in the long-term perspective, it is supposed, but it doesn't happen always as well, it is supposed to provide improving results and outcomes, because like you have better architecture, you have better technical solutions, you have people who are really not only motivated, but also understand why they're doing this. And they are focused all together. So everyone brings the best from his skills, from his background to add to everyone's ideas. And also speaking about the single point of failure, you eliminate bus factor, because usually there's in very strictly hierarchical and organized systems, there are problems which cannot be solved without some specific person. Like even today while sitting here, I got slacked that we got some strange like field appeared in Jira and whether I can fix it or not. No, I can't because there are other people and I am occupied right now. So please deal with it yourself. And most of the companies have it. It's not only management. It can be also like tech lead or someone who works in the company for the long time because he knows where we took some shortcuts in the code, where we implemented not the best solution and how we should fix it without breaking all other things. If this person leaves, this good knowledge also leaves the company and we have a buzz factor. So this was a small talk about why. I hope I managed to persuade you a little bit that we need to develop self-organization in the teams. The next question is how we can do this. So I would suggest to start with defining where and why. In our case, if we found a map with the treasure, we need to understand where it is, how to get there, like create the route. And when we are talking about the companies, it's all starts with like product you're development. Like if you have the company which works only on one product, then product mission and company mission will most probably be something similar. But even if you have several products, you still need to define the mission and vision for every specific product. And product mission is something very like one phrase, one catcher that allows you to clearly define what you want to achieve. For example, I know Tesla's mission is that they want to make sure that people switch to electric vehicles faster than like they currently use other kind of vehicles. Besides product mission, you also need to have product vision. It's more deeper insight into the product. And by the way, one of the things I want to share with you today are some tools which you can use on your way. And to define product vision, you can use such business things as business value canvas, it's on the left, and value proposition canvas. You can Google it and you will immediately get results. But the core thing here is that you need to collaborate on it. You don't have to create it solemnly, like you, your product owner, your CPO, CTO, whoever. Because every time like one person creates something, he's the only person who understands it. If we create it all together, if we collaborate on it, first of all, we once again bring all our ideas to the table. Second of all, we create the shared vision that is easier to achieve in the future. So here's the example of one of the workshops for creating product mission vision that I held in one of the companies. So we know where, we know why, and if we're talking about getting the treasure, what do you think we need to cross the ocean? What is our next step? What should we do? Yes, but a little bit later. Other ideas besides getting crew? Yes, ship. We need to create the ship, to like buy the ship, build the ship. If we have already the ship, repair the ship. So which means that we need to create the conditions which would allow us to get there. And when we talk about the company, these conditions are company's culture. There is a good model for defining the culture of your current company. It's called Schneider Culture Model. And it has like 4 parts of it, which says that there is like the cultural model of control, competence, cultivation, and collaboration. And of course, when we're talking about the companies who really want to be agile, the best culture for this environment is collaboration culture, where we work in the teams, where we have intention, where we have trust to each other, where we have synergy, diversity, etc. And you as a Scrum Masters or Agile coaches really can help company with that. When you enter the company, you need to understand that you can't address all the problems, as Dmitry said, and as Evgeny said before the break. You can't address them by curing the symptoms. You need to define the root causes and address the root causes. And culture is one of these root causes. You can, for example, have questionnaire where you define some situation or describe some situation and provide 4 examples of ways it can be addressed. And each of these examples is related directly to one of these models. And you can understand really what is the current company culture and how to move in the proper one. Besides, so one of the things that company culture means is also values that companies has. And it's very important that values is not only some phrase that catchphrase that you have on your website, on your career page to attract best talents, but that also really company follows these values. That if you say that our value is transparency, that you really try to be transparent and so on. And you can hold a company values workshop. Next thing is catching a fair wind. And in your case, catching a fair wind is the leadership behavior. So your leaders of the company who say that they want to have agile transformation, they really need to lead by example. They need to have values and principles lived. If they say that we want to be agile, if we want to be flexible, we want to be transparent, they also need to become transparent about their decisions. If they say that we want to empower people, they also need to stop being the solemn decision makers in the company. And your job as a Scrum Master or Agile Coach is constantly remind them about that and hold the mirror in front of them to show them that when they break it, so that they understand. Because otherwise, if, for example, the manager comes to the team and says, oh, guys, we need to work like all together, all decisions should be made all together, and we need to be transparent about everything. And then he goes back to his CEO chamber and makes some solemn decision, the team will follow that example, because like we always follow our examples. If you want to make for example, if you want to make your children do sports, start doing sports and they will follow you. If you like do just drinking and smoking and tell them to do sports, they will just stop doing this after like 1 or 2 months. I experienced it myself in my childhood. Now, when you have the root, when you have the sheep, and when you have a fair wind, you can really start working on the team. So you need to form the team if it's from scratch, or reform the team if it already exists. Because sometimes, even if the team already exists and if it works together for 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, it still makes sense to like shake them a little bit, to restart them. And for this, I really recommend, if we are talking about Scrum, for example, to hold a Scrum team kickoff or in general team kickoff. And in my opinion, it should include at least these steps. First of all, intro to the product. If like product mission, vision, other things already like backlog, roadmap already defined, you need to introduce it to them to make sure that they understand why have they been gathered together. If it's not there, it's even better. You can co-create it all together. The next step, you need to work on team building. And like we know that every team is a group of people, but not every group of people is a team. You can bring people together, you can like, create a department, or you can assign people to the same tasks. But if they don't have any personal bonds or relationships, they won't really work as a team altogether. And your job is to help them. So for that, you can use different specific tools. I would highly recommend few tools from Management 3.0, which is created by Jürgen Appello. First of all, personal maps. Personal maps is like a mind map where you describe people who are in your team. And it's not only about professional skills. It's about like what kind of music do they like? Do they prefer dogs or cats? Do they prefer cities or forests for their leisure time, etc.? Because that already creates some personal bonds. People know that they have something in common. They can start talking in the kitchen. They can start talking during the job, and that creates trust between them. Also, there is such thing as moving motivators, which allows you to understand what motivates people in your team and how you can motivate the team in general. Because when you collect moving motivators of the team members, you can create the moving motivators of the whole team. And then there is competency matrix, which is very basic matrix. You have like all team members, you have all skills that are necessary to achieve the goal you need. And you can understand, first of all, whether you possess all required skills, whether there are some knowledge gaps, and whether there are people in the team who are really ready to develop in this way. Because if there are people who want to learn something new and there is a knowledge gap in the team, then you can start addressing it that way. If there is some knowledge gap that exists, for example, I don't know, there is no business analyst in the team and no one in the team wants to do business analysis, then most probably you need to like start hiring or look for people from other teams who want to join your team. Then if we're talking once again about Scrum, or if we talk about some other framework or method, it's good to teach them the basic rules, to tell them about Scrum, what it is about, what are values, like roles, events, artifacts, etc. And they need to really understand it. For this, you can use some games, like for example, Scrum Values game. Like it's also was created by a few Russian Agile coaches. Please don't think that I'm promoting Russian Agile scene here. It's just a coincidence. So you can really use it. And it's very important to create such things as definition of done and working agreements. Definition of done is not one of the Scrum artifacts, but I would say it's a key success factor because first of all, it allows the team to speak the same language. Second of all, if we really often revisit our definition of done, it pushes the team forward to develop their practices, to develop their approach to the work they do. Working agreements can be something less official, like the agreement that we don't use gadgets during our meetings, that if someone is late for the meeting, we don't wait for him or her. And it's very important that these rules are used within the team, that they don't turn into some company policy, because otherwise people, next time you offer them to create such rules, they will say, no, we don't want to create this because the next time we will be judged by that. So now when you have started, when you kicked off the team, moving into the right direction, you can start applying and adapting practices. And that's also what Dmitry was talking about. So you can use different engineering practices like pair programming, mob programming, test-driven development, test automation, etc. Because without these engineering practices, at some point of the time, you will face like big technical debt and like lack of clarity around technical debt. And in the end, the phrase which I really like from the Less Works website, your business agility is always limited by your technical agility. So if you're not agile on the technical level, if you cannot implement changes immediately, if you cannot do, like, for example, canary releases or A/B testing, it will limit your business agility significantly. So you need to address technical excellence. Infrastructure like continuous integration and deployment for the same reason. Flow optimization, switching from pushing the work into progress to finishing the work and pulling it to done. Limiting work in progress, measuring cycle time and lead time, using these metrics to continue further improvement of the process, and etc. Next thing, you need to observe and assist. And that's not a coincidence that I put octopus here. This person, or like this creature who should do this, is like Scrum Master. And there is a good white paper from scrum.org by Barry Overeem, which describes that depending on the current needs of the company and the current state of the team, there are 8 stances of Scrum Master: servant leader, coach, facilitator, teacher, mentor, manager, impediment remover, and change agent. And it requires a lot of skill and a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience to really be able to adapt your behavior depending on the current situation. You need to understand that in the beginning, you teach people to do like basic Scrum rules. Then when they like start challenging these rules, you can really like be open to these experiments and offer them to do this and like coach and like facilitate their decision making, and then like revisit the experiment you did. And that includes like coaching, mentoring, once again holding the mirror also in front of the team to make sure that they see some problems or anti-patterns that they like don't understand themselves, removing impediments and teaching the team to remove such impediments in the future themselves, and other things. It's very important to really not be like one tool person, but to be able to be flexible and adaptable, because we're all about agility, right? Okay, and when we should let the team go, or I would even say when we should not. So first of all, the first risk factor I came up with from my experience is artificial team. The thing we were talking before. If there is no real team, if people are put together and given a title of the team, but they are not the team, it's better not to let such team go. You should focus on really establishing the bonds within the team, helping them grow together, helping them assist together in their professional development, and making sure that they fulfill like business expectations and that they have a word on forming business expectations. Second, team does not own the process. Once again, team follows the process, they have 2 week sprints, they do dailies, plannings, retros, reviews, but then like you go for a 2-week vacation and everything stops. So team does the process because they were told to do that by you or by the management, but they don't understand what is the benefit of that. Do they really benefit from doing it? And like, it's easy to check it. So going on vacation to check the whole scope, or for example, like being late as a Scrum Master for the daily. If you come like 5 minutes later and see that people are still sitting around and you ask them why you're not doing daily and they tell you like, we were waiting for you, like it's pretty clear that they don't understand why do we have dailies, they don't benefit of it, and they don't think they need to have it. Then unstable team composition. How many of you heard about Tuckman's team development model? So, okay, it says that there are 4 stages through which the development team goes, like not development team, any team. Forming, storming, norming, and performing. And each time you have some changes in the team composure, the team gets back to the storming phase, where they have conflicts, where they have misunderstandings, where they cannot work together, and they are counterproductive. And that's why, for example, LESS framework says that teams should be long-living, stable, and like stay together for a long time. That doesn't work everywhere. There are some companies that have like flexible dynamic reteaming, but it's also another sign that nothing is a silver bullet. You need always to try and find the cure for your problem. Then there is low level of product consciousness, when people care only about technical implementation, don't care about the product they develop. And it's easy to understand, like when you have backlog refinement sessions or product or sprint planning, if people ask questions only about technical implementation, acceptance criteria, often to create definition of ready or something like that, then they don't care about product. If people ask product owner why we should do this, why it should look like that, not different, or why we want to implement it that way, that means that people already have made one step forward in their product consciousness, and product owner can become not only a proxy between them and the users, but the bridge that brings them together and that makes the team solve the problems that users have. And if organization is on the verge of change, it's also not the best moment to let the team go. Believe me, my current company has gone through 2 mergers in the last year. And even though it didn't affect the team directly, it still like made the situation worse, because, for example, at some point of a time, you need some actions from management to do this, to make one step forward. And management doesn't have time for that. They are focused on legal stuff, they are focused on some external problems, and they cannot address it. So if organization is on the verge of change, it's better not to let the team go and work closely with it. And as a result, when you do all this, you most probably reach the treasure you were searching for. But I would really like to say that it's very good if you understand that when you open this treasure, the treasure was not like the revenue or something like that, but the team that you've built, the self-organized team that's moving you forward. Because when you have such team of motivated individuals who really like to do their job and understand why they're doing that, you can discover many treasures together with them, not only this one. And there is a quote from the book Scrum Mastery by Geoff Watts, which I really like. Good Scrum Master makes himself indispensable for the team. Great Scrum Master makes himself unnecessary but desired. And I wish you all to become such Scrum Masters. Thank you.